The rain hammered the window like fists on a coffin lid, and Finn Harper wondered if drowning in his own fever was just the universe's polite way of saying goodbye. He curled tighter under the threadbare quilt, sweat soaking the sheets, when the knock came, sharp, insistent, like a heartbeat he had forgotten he still had. "Finn, it's Elias from next door. I saw your light flicker out last night. Open up before I call the damn paramedics." That voice sliced through the haze, gravelly and warm, pulling Finn upright with a groan that rattled his ribs. He stumbled to the door, world tilting like a bad dream, and there stood Elias Thorne, 47 and built like the old-growth cedars out in the Olympic Peninsula. Broad shoulders under a faded flannel shirt, olive skin etched with lines from too many Washington winters, dark hair silvering at the temples, and eyes the color of storm-tossed Puget Sound. In his hands, a cast-iron pot steamed with the promise of chicken noodle soup, herbs and garlic wafting up like a memory Finn didn't know he needed. Elias didn't wait for an invitation. He shouldered past, setting the pot on the stove with the ease of a man who had fixed broken things his whole life. "You look like hell, kid," Elias said, not unkindly, as he ladled soup into a bowl Finn hadn't used in months. The apartment in this rundown queen and duplex smelled of neglect, stale takeout and unwashed laundry. But Elias's presence cut through it. His cologne a subtle wood smoke and leather that lingered like fog off Lake Union. Finn sank onto the couch, shivering despite the heat rising from the bowl, and for the first time in weeks, the silence didn't echo so loud. Elias settled across from him, elbows on knees, watching with that steady gaze that made Finn feel seen, not pitted. "Eat. Doctor's orders from the guy who lost his wife to pneumonia back in '09. You don't get to check out on my watch." Finn spooned the broth, rich and golden, chunks of carrot and celery melting on his tongue, and something cracked open inside him. Not just the fever breaking, but the wall he'd built after his ex, Tyler, had walked out 6 months ago, muttering about figuring himself out in some Austin loft with a younger crowd. Seattle had always been Finn's anchor. This city of drizzle and dreamers where he'd scraped by as a barista in a Capitol Hill coffee shop, sketching portraits of strangers in his downtime, chasing a graphic design gig that never quite landed. But lately, the rain felt like judgment, each drop whispering that at 28, he was still adrift, still hiding from the family back in Spokane who pretended his phase with Tyler was just that, a phase they could pray away. Elias didn't pry that first night. He just talked, low and rhythmic, about the duplex they'd shared for 2 years without really knowing each other. How he'd bought it after Sarah's death, turning the backyard into a vegetable patch that yielded tomatoes sweeter than summer itself. Finn listened, mesmerized by the way Elias's hands moved, calloused from carpentry gigs and the occasional boat repaired down at the Shills Hole Marina. By midnight, the soup was gone, the fever dulled to a throb, and Elias rose with a nod. "Rest up. I'll check on you tomorrow." His scent trailed after him, invading the cushions, the air, wrapping around Finn like an arm he hadn't dared to imagine. Morning brought a fragile clarity, sunlight slicing through the blinds like accusations. Finn dragged himself to the mirror, wincing at the hollows under his eyes, the stubble shadowing his jaw. He was Irish through and through, pale skin that burned under the rare sun, freckles dusting his nose like forgotten constellations. But today he looked ghostly, a specter in his own life. The breakup with Tyler had gutted him. Not just the loss of shared mornings over black coffee, but the confirmation that loving a man meant navigating a world that still flinched. His parents' calls had dwindled to holiday cards, their silence louder than sermons. And now this Elias, the neighbor he'd nodded to in passing, whose life seemed carved from the same rainy granite as Seattle itself. A text buzzed. His boss at the coffee shop. "Take another day, but don't milk it." Finn tossed the phone aside, pulling on sweatpants and padding to the kitchen. The pot sat rinsed by the sink, a post-it stuck to it. Seconds in fridge. Simple, unassuming, but it stirred something fierce in Finn's chest. A gratitude laced with ache, the kind that whispered of possibilities he wasn't sure he deserved. He reheated the leftovers, the aroma blooming again, Elias's essence seeping into the walls, the floorboards creaking under his weight like they remembered the man's step. By afternoon, the knock returned, softer this time. Elias entered with a paper bag. Fresh bread from the bakery on Queen and Avenue, crust crackling as he tore off a piece. Figured you'd need carbs to fight this bug. They ate on the fire escape, overlooking the street where hipsters peddled fixies and fairies hooted in the distance. Elias spoke of his daughter, Mia, 22 and studying marine biology at UW, home only for summers, her laughter still echoing in the empty rooms next door. She worries about me holing up, he admitted, gaze distant. Says I'm like one of those old lighthouses, still standing, but the light's gone dim. Finn swallowed, the bread sticking in his throat. What happened to Sarah? It slipped out, bold and unbidden. But Elias didn't bristle. He leaned back, rain pattering the metal railing like distant applause. Cancer, quick and cruel. We had 12 years, good ones mostly. Taught me you can't plan for the storms, but you can learn to sail through 'em. His voice roughened, and Finn caught the flicker in those blue-gray eyes, a vulnerability that mirrored his own. For a moment, the city blurred, and it was just them. Two men forged in loss, breathing the same mist-shrouded air. That evening, as Elias cleared the plates, his arm brushed Finn's, a spark that jolted like static from Wilsock's. Finn froze, heat flooding his face, but Elias just chuckled low. Easy there, you're still contagious. Yet he lingered, stacking dishes with deliberate slowness, his scent, that intoxicating blend of sawdust and sandalwood, thickening the space between them. Finn's pulse thrummed, a forbidden rhythm, as he watched the older man's profile, the salt and pepper stubble catching the lamplight. What would it be like, he wondered, to lean in, to taste the salt of that skin? The thought terrified and thrilled him, a secret bloom in the barren soil of his heart. Nights blurred into a haze of recovery, Elias a constant orbit. Morning coffee delivered black and strong, evenings filled with stories swapped over takeout from the Thai place on 15th. Finn learned Elias had grown up in Tacoma, son of a dock worker and a schoolteacher, trading high school football dreams for a carpentry apprenticeship that built half the lofts in Belltown. Divorced? No, widowed utterly, with no flings since, just the quiet companionship of his tools and the sea. Men like me don't get second acts, Elias said one night, nursing a beer on Finn's couch, the TV murmuring a Mariners game neither watched. We're the supporting cast. Finn wanted to argue, to say that Elias lit up rooms without trying, that his laugh rumbled like thunder over the sound, drawing people in despite his gruff edges. Instead, he shifted closer, their knees touching, the contact electric. You're wrong, Finn murmured, voice barely above the rain. You're the whole damn story. Elias's eyes met his, searching, and for a heartbeat, the world held its breath. Then Elias pulled back, clapping Finn's shoulder with forced joviality. Get some sleep, artist boy. You've got sketches to finish. But sleep evaded Finn, his mind replaying the almost touch, the way Elias's scent clung to the cushions long after he left. It invaded his dreams, warm hands on fevered skin, whispers in the dark that chased away the chill. Waking tangled in sheets, Finn traced the ghost of that proximity, his body awakening to desires he'd buried under layers of denial. Tyler had been safe, a college fling turned habit, but Elias? He was depth, a current pulling Finn under, promising to drown him in feeling. Days stretched into a tentative rhythm, the soup long gone but its memory sustaining. Finn returned to the coffee shop part-time, steaming lattes for tech bros in hoodies, his sketches evolving, portraits of Elias now, captured in charcoal. The furrow of his brow over a half-finished birdhouse, the curve of his smile when Mia called. One afternoon, Elias dropped by unannounced, leaning on the counter with that easy grin. Heard you were back among the living. Brought this. A small jar of his homemade marinara, label scrawled in block letters. For rainy days. Finn's hands trembled as he took it, their fingers brushing. Deliberate this time, lingering. You spoil me, he said, half joking, but his voice cracked on the edge of truth. Elias's gaze held, intense, like he was measuring the distance between neighbors and something more. Someone's gotta. World's too cold otherwise. The shop buzzed around them. Espresso hissing, indie folk crooning from speakers, but Finn heard only his heartbeat, saw only the flecks of gold in Elias's eyes. That night, thunder rolled in from the Pacific, shaking the duplex like an old regret. Finn paced his living room, lightning etching shadows on the walls, when the power flickered and died. Darkness swallowed everything, and panic clawed up his throat. Not of the storm, but of the isolation it amplified. Then, a knock, and Elias appeared in the doorway, lantern in hand, his silhouette framed by the flash. "Generator in the shed's acting up. Come over. I've got candles, wine, and a deck of cards to pass the time." Finn followed, the rain soaking them both as they dashed across the shared yard, mud sucking at their boots. Elias's place was a revelation. Bookshelves groaning under Tom Clancy and Hemingway, a stone fireplace crackling to life, photos of Sarah and Mia lining the mantel like sentinels. They stripped off wet jackets, steam rising from their skin, and settled on the rug with glasses of Cabernet, the lantern casting golden pools. Truth or dare? Elias proposed, eyebrow arched, turning the game into a bridge over the chasm of their silences. Truth spilled first. Finn confessed the ache of his family's rejection, the way his father's voice had gone flat on the phone last Christmas. "We'll pray for you, son," leaving him unmoored in this city of transients. Elias nodded, sharing his own ghosts. The night Sarah slipped away in Harborview, his hand in hers, whispering promises he couldn't keep. "Grief's a thief," he said, voice thick. "Steals your color, leaves you grayscale." Dares followed, lighter at first. Finn belting out a Springsteen verse off-key, Elias attempting a two-step that ended in laughter. But the air thickened, charged, until Elias dared him. "Tell me what you see when you look at me." Finn's breath hitched, wine forgotten. Strength, the kind that bends but doesn't break. And something softer, like you carry the weight of the world but still make room for mine. Elias leaned in, inches away, his scent overwhelming, earth and ember, pulling Finn like gravity. Their lips met in the lantern's glow, tentative then fierce, a storm breaking at last. Hands roamed, mapping scars and size, Elias's stubble grazing Finn's neck as they tumbled to the rug, bodies aligning in a dance older than words. Afterward, tangled and breathless, Elias traced Finn's jaw, thumb rough against smooth skin. It's been a long time." Finn pressed closer, heart pounding. "Good. Means it's real." Dawn crept in with the rain's retreat, and they parted with promises. Coffee at noon, sketches shared over lunch. But as Finn slipped back to his side, Elias's scent followed, embedding in his clothes, his skin, a mark that whispered of home. Weeks wove them tighter, Seattle's gray yielding to tentative greens. Mornings began with Elias's knock, coffee in hand, evolving to shared breakfasts. Eggs scrambled with herbs from his garden, stories traded like currency. Finn's sketches filled a notebook, Elias hammering nails into driftwood frames, his laugh lines deepening under summer's rare kiss. They wandered Pike Place, fingers brushing amid the fishmonger's shouts, stealing kisses in the shadow of the market's clock tower. Elias introduced him to Mia over video call, her bright eyes appraising, "Dad's happier, you sticking around." And Finn felt roots stirring in soil he'd thought barren. Yet doubts gnawed, shadows in the sunlight. Finn's ex, Tyler, texted out of nowhere, "Miss Seattle, coffee sometime?" Delete. But the echo lingered, a reminder of patterns. Young loves that fizzled, leaving ash. And Elias? He pulled back some nights, staring at the ceiling as if ghosts crowded the rafters. "Age gap's a chasm, Finn. I'm 47. You've got decades to chase." Finn would silence him with touches, mapping the silver in his hair, the strength in his arms, but the words festered, a slow poison. One evening, as they grilled salmon on the back deck, Elias's specialty, cedar planked and smoky, his phone rang. Mia's voice urgent. "Dad, Gramps had a stroke. Tacoma General. I'm driving down. Meet me?" Elias's face drained, the spatula clattering to the boards. Finn drove him, the I-5 a blur of taillights, holding Elias's hand as they waited in the sterile hum of the ER. Hours stretched, coffee gone cold, until the doctor emerged. Stable, but fragile. Elias broke then, shoulders shaking in Finn's arms, the man of stone cracking under grief's hammer. Back in Seattle, the duplex felt haunted, Elias retreating into work. Long hours at the yard, sawdust his only companion. Finn gave space, but the silence screamed, his own fears amplifying. Was this love, or just solace snatched from sickness? He poured it into art, a canvas blooming with Elias's form. Naked, vulnerable, eyes locked on the viewer with unspoken plea. When he showed it, Elias traced the brushstrokes, voice hoarse. "You see too much." Their lovemaking that night was desperate, bodies colliding like waves on jagged rock. But dawn brought distance again. The fracture came on a crisp October eve, leaves skittering like warnings across the yard. Finn returned from a shift to find Elias on the porch, nursing whiskey, a letter crumpled in his fist. "Sarah's sister Lena, from Portland. She's selling the old cabin in the Cascades. Wanted to know if I'd remarry, for Mia's sake. Stability." His eyes avoided Finn's, the words a blade. "I told her no, but it got me thinking it's fire. Burns hot. But what about the embers?" Finn's stomach plummeted, betrayal sharp as betrayal, though no infidelity stained the air. It was deeper. Elias's fear, cloaked in caution, rejecting the very vulnerability Finn craved. "So that's it? Soup and sex? Then scatter." Finn's voice rose, cracking. "I let you in, all of me, and you're halfway out the door?" Elias stood, hands raised. "I'm protecting you, kid, from a life half-lived, tethered to an old man with baggage heavier than these hills." Words flew like shrapnel. Finn accusing Elias of cowardice, Elias retorting with the wisdom of scars. "You deserve symphonies, not this quiet dirge." Finn stormed next door, slamming the frame, the duplex dividing them like a fault line. Nights blurred into isolation, Elias's scent fading from the pillows, replaced by the acrid bite of regret. Finn sketched furiously, ripped pages of their faces intertwined, now torn asunder, venting to a canvas that bled accusation. But Seattle's rain persisted, a metronome to his turmoil, forcing introspection. He called his sister Ellie, back in Spokane. First time in months. "Love's messy, Finn," she said softly, defying their parents' script. "But hiding from it? That's death by inches." Emboldened, he drove to the marina at dawn, finding Elias sanding a skiff, shoulders hunched against the spray. "I won't beg," Finn said, voice steady. "But I won't settle for half measures. You taught me that through soup, through storms. Choose us or let me go clean." Elias set down the sandpaper, face etched with the Cascades' rugged lines. "I chose once, lost everything." A pause, the gulls crying overhead. "But you're the light flickering back." He stepped forward, hands cupping Finn's face, thumbs brushing tears neither acknowledged. "Forgive an old fool?" Their kiss was salt and renewal, the sound whispering absolution. Winter crept in, snow dusting the Olympics like powdered sugar on forgotten cakes. They rebuilt, brick by deliberate brick. Mia visiting for Thanksgiving, her approval a bomb as she grilled Finn over pie. "You make him laugh. Really laugh." Elias proposed a trip to the cabin, not to sell, but to claim. Weekends chopping wood, nights by the fire where stories flowed freer than the creek outside. Finn's designs landed a freelance gig, logos for a queer-owned bookstore in the CD. His art gaining traction in local galleries. Yet the world intruded as it does. A neighbor, crusty old Harlan from across the street, caught them mid-embrace on the porch and spat slurs the next day at the corner store. "Freak show ruining the block," whispers rippled, but Elias faced him down over the fence, voice low thunder. "Mind your yard, Harlan. This one's mine." Finn's heart swelled, the stand a declaration louder than any vow. Spring thawed the scars, blooming cherry trees along the Burke-Gilman Trail where they biked, hands linked at stops. Finn turned 30 in May, Elias baking a lopsided cake, candles flickering like stars. To new chapters, Elias toasted, eyes shining. But beneath the joy, a quiet undercurrent. Elias's cough, dismissed as allergies, persisting into June. The diagnosis hit like a squall, Early-stage lung cancer caught from a routine check Mia insisted on. Irony of ironies. Elias joked weakly in the oncologist's office, but his grip on Finn's hand was vice-tight. Treatments began. Chemo's nausea, radiation's fatigue. But Elias fought with the grit of a man who'd outlasted tempests. Finn became the caretaker now, soup simmering on his stove, a recipe tweaked with love, sense mingling in a home that blurred dividing walls. Through it, their bond deepened, confessions whispered in hospital hush. Elias admitting a youthful crush on his high school coach, buried under straight-laced vows. Finn revealing dreams of a life unapologetic. Sketches turned novel illustrations for a memoir on queer invisibility. "You saved me twice," Elias murmured one night, bald head pillowed on Finn's lap, for dripping steady. Soup, then soul. Remission came in autumn's gold, scans clear as the post-rain sky. They celebrated quietly. Dinner on the deck, Mia toasting with sparkling cider. To anchors in the storm, Harlan moved away, the duplex quieter, but filled now with laughter, with life. Years folded like accordions, but that first soup's essence lingered. Elias's scent, once a visitor, now the very air Finn breathed. In the end, love wasn't grand gestures or flawless arcs. It was the quiet persistence, the choice to stay when the fever broke and the rain cleared. They grew old together, hands veined and sure, watching fairies slice the sound from their porch. Finn's art graced covers nationwide, Elias's birdhouses dotting backyards from Tacoma to Bellingham. And in the duplex that held their story, compassion wove through every creak. A testament to freedom claimed, identities embraced, one steaming bowl at a time.